All right, everybody. It's been a minute since we did the original Volcano mod. For those of you who weren't following me back in the day, go watch that video first off. I cover a lot of this stuff more in depth. This is more of just kind of like an update video. Tell you what things went well, when things didn't go well. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. Here is the original Volcano mod in all its glory. It involves a threaded bimetallic heat break, all metal, and a Volcano heat block. That enables you to use uh, any volcano nozzle you want, really. And you get 5 millimeters, give or take, of extra melt zone. Plus, if you choose to do the extra heat break upgrade, that is an uh, extra peace of mind, I guess, that even at operating at 260 degrees Celsius, you're not going to melt this PTFE tube up here. Uh, Things I learned were that this kind of style volcano block, where it's just kind of loosey goosey on here, leads to a lot of potential problems. And that this style, the Creality style of volcano heat blocks, or at least ones that fit Creality machines, screw them on like that, and you can put them on just like your regular old uh, heat block. And show you what that looks like now. The spacing isn't quite right for the holes, but it is close enough for you to actually start them. And once you get them started, you can screw them all the way in, no problem. This is taking like no effort, by the way. I'm not doing this very hard. And these volcano heat blocks for the Creality style that I ordered from, I guess you'd say their name is Polished, but it's like Polished 3D. Whichever way you say it, I will have a link to it in the bomb. So there you go. Boom, bada boom. That sucker's not going anywhere, is it? And if you haven't already, mod or no mod, I'd recommend trading out those flimsy stainless steel screws for alloy steel 12.9, so that you get a little bit more rigidity here. Those aren't bending. This doesn't become a one-handed nozzle affair, even with these nice strong screws, but you know, it's a lot more rigid than the stainless steel one, so you're a lot less likely to twist it out. So, you can see kind of what I mean, why they don't quite line up. The Creality holes are a little bit wider, and you do have to kind of go in at an angle, but it does work really well. And then the spacing is quite good. This is the second heatsink I've tapped, and I kind of left myself just a little bit more copper threading exposed so that I can get just a little bit better spacing. It's not so sandwiched in between there. I'm left with about, what is this? So you're 5 millimeters, I'm guessing. 4.5. Yeah, just about. Now, if you are wondering about using the heat break that you already had, maybe you don't feel comfortable tapping this guy. And I will have a tapping update near the end of the video where I kind of go over the method again and actually get it on camera so that I can show you guys. But this guy is your regular heat break that comes with your machine. It's got the PTFE tube that runs all the way down to the nozzle. And yes, this will work with any heat block. However, it might not work right away. Okay, so the way to fix that is, at least for me, it wouldn't thread. My stock PTFE heat break wouldn't thread with the PTFE tube inserted. So all you got to do to fix that is pull the tube out. Take your empty heat break, right there, no tube in it. It's going to thread like butter once you have the tube out. That's all it took. Really weird, but that's all you need to do. And then you can take a 1/4 inch wrench for freedom units, I don't know what that is in millimeters, but that's what I use. It works great. Give that just a little click right there. Should be really tight. Don't need to put a lot of pressure behind it. And then all you have to do is put your PTFE tube back in after it's all assembled like this. And you'll want to insert it from the top and push it all the way out of the bottom of the heat block. And we'll get to why in just a sec, but you see how it pokes out right there? Push that back flush so you can expose some of those threads. Take your nozzle and thread your nozzle all the way back into the heat block until it's tight. Just do that by hand, right? And it might be a little bit hard to get started, but once you get it started, it should just thread in, no problem, and gradually push your PTFE heat break, or your PTFE tube back out of the heat break. And the reason we're doing it this way is because this is going to ensure that that PTFE tube is flush with the bottom of the heat break. So now that that's tight, you can see how much it sticks out, and I'll show you by taking this back out exactly what I was talking about. So just grab our 1/4" wrench again, take it apart, and there we can see right there at the bottom, comes right in and right out once you have the PTFE tube installed. You just have to, the first time you thread it, you have to not have the PTFE tube in. But you see how it's nice and flush there. Let's put that back together. Another thing with our 1/4" wrench, and then I'll touch on one last thing I wanted to show. So see how that nozzle has a gap in between the bottom of the heat block and the heat break? We started with the heat break first because we want to get that in place and then screw the nozzle into the bottom so that it touches the heat break. You do that cold by hand, and then you can put it back on your machine, heat it up to about 240 if you're using the stock heat break, about 260 if you're using the threaded heat break, and then give it a good tighten. You don't need much. It's about 1.8 Newton meters, and you can get torque wrenches that put that kind of pressure on it, but 1.8 Newton meters is all you need, but you can feel that out. And this is the way I have tightened all mine, and it works great for me. So this is a M7 wrench I got on Amazon. These are M7. The stock nozzles are M6. Pretty much any Volcano nozzle you'll find is going to be M7. So go ahead and pick that up now. Take a 12mm wrench. I think that works really great here. Put it on one side. That's going to be how you hold your heat block against the torque of your wrench, so you don't twist it out and break your screws and snap your cables. Then you just feel it out. It should feel nice and tight when you're done, but it also should feel like you're not about to snap your nozzle or heat break. Err on the side of caution. Put just a teeny bit more force than what feels comfortable, and then stop. Here, my heat break was able to move, but in the real thing, yours won't be able to. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get to tapping and drilling this guy right here. So the reason we got to tap and drill is because this guy is not threaded. I'll bring that up a little farther. He's not threaded, right? So we need to tap him out to M6 spec. Problem is, he's also, that hole right there isn't quite big enough. It is 4.93-ish millimeters. And we really need it somewhere closer to 5 millimeters before we can actually tap it. So we just need to take just a little bit off. And you don't need to do much. It won't take much, but I've marked it off here. Get yourself a little vise or something to hold it nice and snug. This isn't even a vise that's attached to anything. You just don't want this aluminum piece of work to move around while you're doing your job. And with this, I wouldn't even put cutting fluid in it. Just let the drill kind of bite it. Go in. Go back out. It really didn't take a whole lot off there. Just the smallest amount of material. Blow the chips out. A bit of compressed air goes a long way. I'll go in one more time with the drill just to make sure we took enough off the outside to make it the rest of the way in. Perfect. That should open it up just wide enough for a tap to get in there. You see how all these little shavings came out? Just wide enough. M6 tap, marked up to the point that we need. Go a little bit with taper taps like this. You see how it doesn't reach full thread thickness for a little while? With taper taps, it's somewhere around 7 threads, I believe, maybe 5. Depends on the tap you get. I believe the taper taps are 7 to get to full thread depth. So I marked it off a little bit. I got to go all the way to the tape inside this hole. But really, I'm going to be limited by the end right there. And last time I tapped this, I didn't really get as far as this tape, I don't think. So as always, cutting fluid helps. But it's aluminum. It's really soft. You could probably use just about any fluid. Any kind of oil will probably do the trick. I like cutting fluid, though. It's specifically for this purpose. Put a little bit in the hole. Kind of throw your tap in there. A little bit on your tap. You really don't need as much as I have here, but it makes the job easier. And you can always clean this up in the sink afterwards, so don't be afraid to get a little dirty. Thing with tapping. All right, you can watch a million videos on tapping. Just make sure you get it nice and straight. So with pre-drilled holes, it's nice and easy, especially with these holes. They're machined before you widen them. Very easy, right? Super clean, super easy to go in there. Give it a few rotations. Might take you a few rotations to really get your threads a bit far enough in to actually hold the tap after you're done. Just give it consistent downward pressure. Spin a little bit. Back off quarter turn every 2 or 3 turns. Or if you feel significant resistance building up in the tap, you don't want to snap this off. Make sure you're giving plenty of downward pressure. Aluminum is very soft and it wants to push your tap back out. We are slightly work hardening these threads by having a slightly undersized hole. But if you didn't drill that hole beforehand, my tap, at least, is slightly too big to actually start the thread. But we're cold working the metal right now, which should help with thread strength in the long run. By cold working, I mean we're pushing out against the sides of the walls. And you'll see it when I remove it. There'll be indents in the walls. Right here in the fins, you'll be able to see it. And that's going to make for really strong threads. Just keep going. It's going to take a minute. All right, sorry I had to cut a little bit of that footage. My head got in the way a bunch there. This is not super easy work. But eventually you're going to get to a point where the tap stays in, right? It's not worried about popping out. You've got enough threads dug in there. Your new tap method is use the extremes of the handle. Go about almost 1 turn. Back it up a quarter, maybe even a half a turn. If you need more liquid, don't be afraid to put some more along the channels of your tap. Never hurts. Now you should be able to really feel it cutting. If you feel like you're going to break it, just back it up. Nothing wrong with it. Nice and slow. This is going to be harder than your normal tap because we are work hardening this metal. Our hole is slightly undersized and we're pushing the walls of the heatsink out. It's going to make for really strong threads, but it is tough work. I'm not really worried about breaking a tap in aluminum. What I'm really kind of worried about is double threading, right? Which means you're going to cut 2 sets of conflicting threads by not being perfectly aligned. Just make sure you don't take it out far enough where you pop out of the threads. You'll be just fine. You really want the tap to screw itself in at this point. You'll feel it, right? You no longer have to push down on the tap for it to work. You want the tap to really start screwing itself in now. So you get some nice threads on there. And yeah, I'm worried about either stripping threads out or double threading. So it's mainly why I'm backing up so much. Before, when you were pushing the tap in on those tapered threads, the metal had a lot more places to go, and you weren't cutting so hard, so your risk of breaking a tap or ripping threads out was kind of low. Then you'll get to the point where you're cutting full depth on multiple threads at the same time. You're cutting full depth on that leading edge, and that's when you want to start using the extremes. The only reason I'm not really doing it the right tap method, where you kind of go like this and you kind of thread it around, is that this vise isn't able to be attached to anything. So just a shitty Harbor Freight vise I got for $20, but it gets the job done. I got nice big hands, so I can leverage it like this. Sorry, I only have the one overhead view. This is going to get really hard down at the bottom, where your drill bit didn't go very deep. And that was to really avoid blowing out the top of the heatsink with a drill. Not really a way around that. Your tapping force required is going to go up quite a bit. Once you are pretty deep in the tap, you'll notice it change resistances. That is not your tap wanting to break, although it feels really similar. That is just you reaching the end of that widened hole, and you're starting to widen the hole with the end of your tapered tap. Don't worry about it. Like I said, this is aluminum. You'll have enough threads in at this point that you're really not worried about ripping them out anymore. So you can just keep going. Oh. Keep checking back under there. See if the tip of your tap is poking out of the top hole. That's a good indicator that you have bottomed out. Not quite there yet, though. And really go for it with this tap. Like, go deep. You'll need to put most of the tap through with a tapered tap. Otherwise, your heatsink won't screw in. Your heat break won't screw in all the way. And that will not be such a fun time, because if you're doing a threaded heat break with a Volcano mod and you don't want to use shims or lose any Z height, well, then you're going to need to tap this pretty much flush. All right, that's bottomed out. It's as much as we can possibly do, so hopefully our heat break fits in there just fine. Just kind of back it out just like a screw. Nice threads in there. Maybe you can't really see it, but that's threaded all the way down. Now it's time to do cleanup. A straw cleaner, like those metal straws you get at the store, they usually come with brushes, and those are perfect for this application. To get in there and clean that hole, really clean that out before you try to thread anything in there. You do not want metal chips to get inside your filament path. It's just a bad day. It's basically a clog in the extruder that you can really never get out. There's no melting it out. I mean, You'd be lucky if cold threads or cold pulls pull it out. I really wanted to get in here and show you what I'm talking about with this cold working. You see those ridges in there? Right on the middle. You can't really see them too good on camera, but there are, see those little dimples inside right along this wall? That is us going in there. That tap, that was completely flat before we started tapping. And you have work hardened that metal and increased the surface area for which you can have heat transfer. So that should help with heat creep. You may need to deburr this. Deburring tools are awesome. Just give it like one or just cut that sharp edge off of there. And try not to mess your threads up in there. Real light. Yeah, that'll be plenty good enough. If you really are anal about it, you can just kind of sweep with a X-Acto knife across there. You'll get it. Now for cleaning, just hold this against the paper towel and really make sure you're wearing eye protection while you're doing this. I'm wearing safety glasses. You don't want aluminum chips to get in your eye. Now, not a whole lot's going to come out with this, but this will keep it from clogging your brush too hard. All right, now take it to the sink, wash it with tons of soap and water, and dry it with paper towels. And then to dry out the inside cavity, just take a hairdryer and heat this up pretty hot. Hairdryer will do the trick. It'll evaporate most of the water out. Okay, so now that we're all back together in the outside of the garage, let's talk about aluminum versus copper with plated nickel. I want to love the copper with plated nickel, but it's simply too heavy. Ghosting gets unacceptable when we're talking about this because this weighs almost 3 times as much as this. And the heat transfer of copper plated nickel versus aluminum, I'll be honest, guys, I'd be hard pressed if I noticed a practical difference in printing. Theoretically, this is better for melting plastic, but this just, it's plenty good enough, honestly. Don't sweat it too much. Just go with aluminum. That's what's going to be in the bomb. I'm not even going to bother putting in the nickel-plated versions. I've gotten much better results at speed with aluminum, and I'm assuming that's why you're doing this, so let's not ruin the point. All right, guys, let's round this out. Last thing I really wanted to touch on was, here's your final product. And we have thermistor, heater, all that stuff's in the bomb. Particularly, when you're done with this, you're going to have to cut your PTFE tube when you are doing the metal heat break, or the bimetal heat break. What you're going to do is you're going to screw in your bimetal heat break all the way. You can use your heat block with a nozzle inserted. It kind of has a wrench to turn the heat break in. Once you have it seated, go ahead and stick a PTFE tube in through the top until it bottoms out, and cut it about 15 millimeters from the top of this lip right here. And that should be just about perfect. It's really 15.5, but good luck being able to cut it that precisely. If you order Capricorn tube, usually you'll get one of these little cutters to go with it. You can also just get these cutters on Amazon, or if you have spare razor blades or X-Acto knife blades, there's some templates that you can print out to make those as well. The heater cartridge connectors are JST XH 2.54 millimeter connectors. And most of the kits on Amazon come with crimpers. Just make sure you get crimpers that are appropriate for that. And then the thermistor ones are JST 2.0 millimeters. And these crimpers are usually not the same crimpers. So if you can find yourself crimpers that will crimp both of these, that's great. But I could not. Crimpers for these would not crimp these, and vice versa. So I have 2 sets of crimpers. And they're just shitty ones I bought off Amazon that came with these kits. Here's the pH crimpers, and here's the XH crimpers. Just look up a video on crimping. It's really not It's really not too difficult. It's just fiddly. You're gonna need some time and patience. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I didn't cover. Oh yes. Once you do this mod, if you do this mod in any capacity, you're going to need new fan ducts. Period. Either my fan ducts for the all metal one or Spiggy Tech's fan ducts for the stock heat break one. And additionally, if you're going to keep your stock heat break with Spiggy Tech, you can get some files from Spiggy Tech that are shims that you insert inside the Z towers, and that will keep your nozzle from crashing when you home. Those are super important. If you keep the stock heat break, please, please, please do not home your machine until you have shims. And that means print your shims out and measure them to be the correct distance before you do the mod. Don't do the mod with your only 3D printer and then be shit out of luck with shims. That would suck. So please, 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 if you're going to keep the stock heat break, print those shims out before you even start taking the machine apart. We'll have that all linked over on the mod page, and the mod page's link will be in the video description. Thanks so much for tuning in for this update. I know a lot of people were asking for it. If there's anything I missed, let me know, and I'll see if I can get it pinned in a comment or something. If it's egregious enough of an error that I missed, then we'll go ahead and get another video out. In the next video in the Volcano mod series is going to be me testing flow rate against the stock setups, both with a regular nozzle and with a CHT nozzle. And that should give us a really good idea of roughly how much more extrusion performance you can expect from this mod. Thanks for your time, guys. Peace.